Hello there, and welcome to a new build guide for Age of Wonders 4. Today I got a new Golem build for you. I went into the Mystic Culture, and this is a Golem build with a lot of Battle Mage backline, which is extremely powerful at everything it does. I enjoyed it a lot, played it with a Dragon Ruler because I felt like this was a very neat way of smuggling in some shadow affinity that this build would normally lack, opening up some really nice options in the Empire development tree. So we're going to go over the build as usual, and I really enjoyed this one while I was playing through Brutal. This build excelled at everything, especially since you have a really good early game, and it only gets better the longer you play. The golems right now are among the more powerful things in the newest version, and we're gonna get started now with the racial traits and the cultural for this one. So you wanted a build with dire bears. I gave you a build with dire bears. These are replaceable in this build, but hear me out. It is kind of stupid, but nowhere is stated that this 40% damage bonus is only exclusive for melee. I don't think it'll stay like that, but currently you can use this for your battle mages. 40% more against defending units, featured on evokers and spellbreakers. This is really a little bit abusing the system in my opinion, but it works right now, and that's why we can play it. If you don't like that, feel free to swap that out with overwhelm tactics or anything that pleases you. Right now I just wanted to feature for once a build that uses those guys and uses them really well. The other thing, well, we're playing the battle mage build, so arcane focus should not be missed at all. Cultural traits. I went here for the all-out magic skill tree. Powerful evokers for 1 extra dot of shadow affinity, and for more powerful battle mages, and an extra supporter if you're lucky at the beginning of the game, and gifted casters for cheaper spells, more spell casting in general, and an extra combat spell from the get-go. This is a combination that just is aimed around utilizing your Star Blades a lot, and I play that combo a lot on the Mystics because it's very potent. Feel free to change out whatever you want, but I think this is really good combination. Now, tome-wise, we go into a very materium-heavy build, as you might already notice here, but we're going to go first up with Materium, but later with Astral. So Enchantment was the first tome I picked up. Seeker Arrows is kind of like a lost cause on this build, so skip it entirely. We don't have units utilizing that, and you would be wasting your research on that. The rest here, though, is excellent. Spell Tempered Shields is really good. More magical resistance. Golems love that. It's their weak spot. Sundering Blades is softening up the enemies and gives you the ability to destroy reinforced stuff. And we can summon our Copper Golems, the only summonable golem, so we don't have to use the summoning cultural trait, and I strongly don't recommend it. It's just not as powerful for this build. We can get them into bronze golems if they survive until the end of the road, therefore try to keep them alive and try to lose other parts of your army. They are really valuable, as they will turn into free tier 3 units. Awakened Tools is a spell that is really good for the Mystic Culture, as it will mitigate a lot of your problems in the general development of your cities. I really enjoyed that one a lot. Also, Sundering Strike's really good for your heroes and the Runecarver's camp. If you need a lot of units, it's really powerful, as it provides even more draft again, and even a bit of mana if you have quarries. Evocation is the second one I picked up here. For a Battle Mage build, I didn't find a much better tome. There is, though, a very honorable mention towards the Cryomancy tome for this build, as it features a lot of synergistic aspects here. The White Witch is really powerful, as it is also a mounted mage. We really can use mounted mages with this build due to the bears quite well. And she can freeze stuff, and you can also freeze stuff with a spell, so you have a lot of CC on that variation of the build, with the downside that the frost arrows are again entirely useless on the build, and the frost blades, though, are really good Lesser snow spirits are skirmishers, so they could technically use the frost arrows, but I didn't find this so synergistic with this build in general. Although the School of Cryomancy is really nice to have, as I love every tome that provides free research post or conduit provinces. Evocation, though, is much better. In my humble opinion, it fits much better for Battle Mage Tome, alone for the lightning focus. It's adding in a damage over time chance and amps up the damage of Battle Mages and supporters, which is really the only tier 1 tome providing that. We also get lightning blades, and all of our golems will benefit from that, which is pretty cool synergy. They deal more damage against electrified stuff like that, and we also get a mounted Battle Mage. The Evokers are really good for a bad build and should totally replace your tier 1 Battle Mages ASAP. The Lesser Storm Spirits, you can use them, I didn't, but they turn into really useful shock units after they are fully evolved, and they can come in quite cheap and fill a spot. And Lightning Torrent is a map spell, which is pretty cool as it lowers the enemy lightning resistance, and we have a lot of that damage type. Channeling Towers provide us with free conduits, so you either pick Cryo for research or Evo for stronger battle mages and conduits. Tier 2, there's the point where we lean totally into Materium. 2 tomes to pick up. First up, the Tome of the Construct, which is providing a direct access to the bronze golems, so you can now recruit them at cities for 140 gold. The summoned ones still cost you no gold at all, and they are the backbone of your front line. They deal a lot of damage, they can cleave and weaken, and they are really amazingly good, as is this entire tome. The cascading command spells are basically battle-wide buffs, because at the end of the day, you either are a construct or enchanted with linked minds, so your entire army will benefit from that. Cascading command is amazing insofar as it allows your entire army to act and then afterwards go into defense. This is really stupidly good because all your shield units can act aggressively and don't get the downside of not activating their shields, and yeah, it's just really powerful when you face builds that hurt you a lot. While the reposition command is really good when you're on the offensive, as it provides a bit of strengthening, a bit of faster movement, but mind you that always extra retaliation attacks are in there, and we're featuring a lot of pole arms, so in both cases these are damned good. And compounding defense is just a nice cherry on the top, as all of your units will just gain a little bit more defenses. Nothing wrong about that. Worker Construct Nexus, I love it. It's just good. It provides some goodness wherever it's standing. I really like that. And the Experienced Warsmith, it's a novice level support skill, and it's just amazingly good. Pick it up on every hero I'd recommend you. Now, Artificing is the next one on the list. Artisan Armaments is just top-notch and amping up the damage for our entire Golem army, as pretty much everybody on your construct side benefits from that. We also gain Iron Golems, which can now replace your Tier 2 racial units, although the Tier 2 shields of the Mystics are darn good as well, but they are really nice to have, as they have an extra strong shield wall mode compared to other units. Siege Magic comes in just nice into any Battle Mage build, giving you the ability to siege cities faster with your battle mages, which is something I outright love, and Artisan Fortification and Bolt Repeaters, well, they are what they are. I often skip them, but they aren't bad per se. Golem Mine will provide you extra gold, which is really good for a bad build, and extra units, as well the Golem Assistant. In a Golem build, I strongly recommend you to have that on every one of your heroes, as it just provides extra troops, which benefit from all of the synergies in your army's build, which is amazing. These guys don't feel like tier 1 units. Now, with those tomes in pocket, you are pretty much dominating all over the board already, but you will notice that you are quite weak on the magic side. This changes once we have the Tome of the Dreadnought. Warding metals is one of the very first things I recommend you to research out of that, as it amps up the magical resistance of your golems tremendously. You will feel the moment when that enchantment is up. Pinning Barrage comes in super handy, as marking is pretty good for our battle mages. makes targets easier to hit, nothing wrong about that. And the immobilization on a 2-hex radius is amazing. And since this build coughs up so much mana, you will have the ability to get this down on the battlefield quite often. Destabilized Mana Core goes into a very similar venue, it's just much less mana intense, and it features Disruption. Ironclads are constructs, so they fit into our strategy as well. So we now have artillery, really good stuff, and the grade bombards. Well, you can rock them if you want to, they're pretty nice in city sieges, but I try to skip those slots quite often in favor of other things like tuning kits. Although I'm a little bit on a mixed side here. Overcharged is quite nice as it amps up the damage, but there is a chance to stun, and we don't have too much condition remove, so I'm not too much of a big fan here. The other skills are much more tasty in my humble opinion. The War Foundry, well, if you are in an outright war situation, there is one really good thing about this thing. You can churn out units fast, so that means whatever dies at the battlefront can be easily replaced in the cities, so that's a really good thing for the mid and late game. And Artillerist is amazing for every one of your warfare heroes, it's just damn good. It's a one turn action, and once the battlefronts are solidified, it's a really strong nuke. Love it. Tier 3, the other tome we pick is Amplification. You know, can't play a battle mage build without amplification in my book. As frenzying focus is amazing for battle mages, amping up their damage to 50 plus 50% after their second 2-turn or full turn action, so they can go wild. Also, your supporters gain a little bit of steam as well, I like that too. Amplified arrows, like I said, kind of a lost cause here, but the fun part about this build is it can integrate foreign archer units darned well, as you have 2 enchantments available if you happen to conquer a city that has a lot of good archers or whatever comes your mind across your way. It is compatible. It is not incompatible, which is pretty cool. Astral Blood is where we go places as we now gain critical hit chances, and I really like that one as it increases your damage profile tremendously. At least your racial units, your golems don't profit from that. And yeah, Chain Lightning, Battlefield Nukes, what's not to like about that? Amplify Mind, more research edge, always good to have. And Amplification Pylons, since we have a lot of battlefield combat spells, nice stuff. Resonance Fields adds in more of the goodness, so more casting abilities and more conduits, and yeah, spell amplification would give you the opportunity to swap out the Soothers completely out of your roster, as this is basically the same passive as your tier 2 supporters. Now, Tier 4 is where you basically win the game when you pick up the Tome of the Golden Realm, as this brings you the most unfair unit in the game, the Gold Golem. I don't know why these guys actually exist the way they do. They are stupidly overpowered, as they stun enemies that dare to melee attack them. They have a 1-hex cone basic attack. They can just one-shot every stunned unit, at least gilded. Well, that's their form of stunning. They can technically one-shot everybody around them with that thing and even go home banking money and healing themselves, and they are also featuring endless retaliation attacks. They're just so nuts. I don't know why these things still exist the way, but they do. But hey, you got them. Play them. They're nice. Reagent refineries are amping up your city's power quite a lot. Gilding Blast gives you a 1-hex radius battlefield stun, which is where this build also very potent. And if you happen to have enough gold, Luxury Markets is really powerful, as it allows you to print out cities on a darned fast pace. Bazaar of Wonders is just more gold, and it's really good. And Gilded Magic, if you happen to have magic ranged attackers on your heroes, this is making them really go places. And the other tier 4 tome we pick up is of course Severing. That's where we complete our golem book with the Severing golems, which can disrupt the enemy's enchantments, strengthen your own guys, and most importantly, you finally have negative status control. Darned late for this build, so negative statuses are kind of like your kryptonite here, but every build has sort of a weakness. But once you have these guys, even that weakness fades. You also have a lot of status resistance available with the Null Shield skill. You have a battlefield wide Corpse Denial and Healing spell with Final Banishment. Astral Severance is a chance of just killing magic origin units, and Disrupting Blades will disrupt enemy enchantments reliably. And that's the point where it's really hard to stop that build anymore, because you pretty much have something of everything. And yeah, spell wards are free spell jammers, or basically spell jammers for mana instead of building them. And battle mages can, of course, also no, sorry, not battle mages. Fighters should also pick up Master of Disruption, as this is a real powerhouse trait. Now, tome-wise, this is where we end. I leave it up to you where you go with the tier 5 tome. You don't really need a tier 5 tome. You're absolutely dominating around the tier 3 area already. Let's talk about your roster. So, Arcane Guards and Arcanists are a dead end for this build. I strongly recommend not to build them at all, and it is a viable option for this build to go either or go Evocation Tome first and pick up the Evokers as fast as possible, but I recommend the Golem Tome so you can print Golems fast and print out Mystic Projections instead of units in your city, because of the Astral Echoes. They are so important for this culture, so this way you can use your early game mana for Copper Golems, which are your early game frontline. They totally replace your native Spear Guys, as they can evolve into Bronze Golems, which is just throughout the board better for this build, so you don't have too much need for them. The moment you have access to Evokers and Copper Golems, both of these become obsolete, which is quite nice in my opinion, as they are very, very basic units and don't scale well. Evokers are your bread and butter everyday battle mages. They don't cost as much as the Spellbreakers, and they aren't as powerful in return, but they do their job quite nicely, and Electrifying Arc is a pretty nice spell, and since we're playing these bears, they actually really hurt a lot against defending units. It's quite stupid how well it works, but well. The Soothers, for me, are a unit I avoid to pick up as much as possible. I pick up one for the spell channeling, and I'll leave it like that. The Soothing Breeze skill sucks, in my opinion, as it is nigh impossible to control it, because it doesn't favor units according to logics. Often it heals one unit you aim at, and then it prefers a unit that is only missing 2 HP, while there's one right next standing to them that's missing 16 HP or more. Since you cannot control it, I dislike this skill a ton, and yeah. They aren't that bad. I make them sound worse than they are, but I personally like to have one of them for the spell channeling passive, and like to replace them with any form of other supporter that I can get my hands on. But if you don't have any, I recommend 2 to 3 in the entire army for the sake of healing, and otherwise you can also outsource the healing on your heroes, which is what I personally always do. Spell shields are a midway solution. They always have their value with their point-blank AoE stun, which is an amazing skill, and since they have their bear mounts, they also can hit defending units quite hard, but all in all, I prefer the Iron Golems over them, since these have a higher tier, and Protective Wall is an amazing spell or skill to protect your friends, but both of these guys work throughout the game, with the focus here that the spell sheets can stun, and the Iron Golems can only buff their neighbors. So the Spellbreakers are kind of like the superstars of your base roster, as they have a really strong base attack, and Star Purge is just amazing, as it purges away the enemy's positive status effects, and you can fire this into defending army compounds due to the bears it hurts. I can't. It's just stupid. Anyways, it works right now. I don't expect it to work that much longer, so you can replace the bears once it works no longer anymore with Overwhelm Tactics. Extra crits will also be very, very good for this skill. These guys are mass producible, and that's why they are pretty good. Ironclads are units that cost you some Imperium, but I really, really like to have one or two of them, as they have a really, really strong base attack. The Barrage skill is very, very versatile, and they are also really good at sieges, as they have the siege breaker trait. Pretty good, pretty easy and quick to pick up, and I enjoy them a lot. On the hero side, like I said, I aimed for a support heavy build that features the Golem Assistant, Restore, that's very important for me, Experienced Warsmith, and Experienced Leader is also very, very powerful as it evolves your golems faster. After that, feel free to opt into the battle skills of choice, as it's really cool to have some hard-hitting heroes here as well. Now, let's talk strategy. Strategy-wise, I went best with this build by just going out, founding cities. I had these 4 cities after like 20 turns, and clear out monster camps as few as possible until you have a full stack of 6 units plus. So at the beginning, it pays off to just summon copper golems along the road and fill up your ranks. It is a little bit of a slow burn start, as I really recommend not to print too many of these arcane guards and arcanists at the beginning. Therefore, your army grows a little bit slower than other builds. In brutal difficulty, you will have a lot of trouble in clearing out nodes early on, but it doesn't matter too much, as you can just sneak around, found cities, and if you play this like I did with the Dragon Ruler, you have a big advantage with the Dragon Ruler, as he has huge vision range, allowing you to find good spots for the cities. Once you have three cities down, start clearing out your environment and try to summon as many golems, get yourself as many evokers as possible, and rush the tier 2 town hall to get access to spell shields. Your banners should be mixed like 1 spell shield / iron golem, 2 bronze golems at least, can be 3, and then 1 supporter / battle mage, or fill it up with battle mages. It depends on your own playstyle how many frontliners versus bronze golems you want, but don't put more than 1 shield per banner. They don't have the same damage profile. The spearmen are here the main part of your damage, and therefore it's really paying off to utilize them. Try to get your hands on as much mana early on as possible, because Awakened Tools pumps up your cities really well if you have access to it. The Empire skills here can help you out a lot. Since we have a lot of Astral Affinity, you gain access to the Rite of Astral Abundance quite early on, and this is a real powerhouse steroid that this build can utilize darned well. You get there really fast, and once you have that plus 1000 mana, you can do a lot of things that maybe weren't possible. It helped me a lot during my runs. The Materium path here is also very powerful, as it helps your expansionistic endeavors, and it also makes your cities cheaper to build, which is really good for the mystics because they are chronically broke. So this is really something you've got to work on. Build those gold enhancing buildings as fast as possible and as many as possible. Since arcane artisans can help you a lot in producing mana, you don't need to build up too many mana producing buildings. Metropolitan Society is also really, really powerful, much more powerful than I thought, and yeah, the whole abundance of these skills will help you there. The Shadow Affinity, I personally recommend you to invest that into knowledge extraction, and if you can afford it, All Seeing plus Court of Whispers is a real powerful way of gaining more knowledge by just investing some Imperium. Yeah. We don't really have big excess of nature skills, so don't, and order, don't think too much about that. These 3 trees are where you want to go to. And as soon as you have your Golem army up, try to recruit as many heroes as you can out of the many cities you founded, and then clear out the area and level up your heroes. And during that phase, you should try to keep your copper golems that you got alive as well as possible, while spamming out all the different unit enchantments that you can get your hands on. Wayfinder enchantment is a enchantment that is really valuable to have, and every other unit enchantment is really powerful. So there could be also a swap for runesmiths into this build. If you feel like this is a bit of an overkill, you could also swap out either gifted casters or evokers for the sake of runesmiths. I see that as a very powerful alternative. You should be careful waging war against enemies that use a lot of magical damage before you have hit the Tome of the Dreadnought. After that, you are basically unstoppable, and you're completely and irrevocably unstoppable as soon as you have unlocked the Gold Golems. Therefore, this build benefits a lot from a science rush, so try to get your research down as fast as possible, as this is, in my humble opinion, one of the fastest ways of getting the job done. Here, at the end of the video, a couple of honorable mentions of tomes that I passed by and felt like they could be really powerful for this build if you can mix them in somehow. That's Tome of Transmutation, as the Transmuters are top-notch tier 4 battle mages, which are an excellent fit to your entire strategy, offering massive AoE and everything you want. Also, the spells in here synergize darn good with the entire roster, giving you a lot of economy boost that you might need. Really, really well. Really, really good stuff. And if you can get yourself the affinities up for the Tome of Dragons, this one would be also an excellent fit for this build. As the Wyvern Eyrie, it is a research post, which is really nice for this build. The Flamer focus is massive for any Battle Mage build, and dragons fit also pretty well into this build because we already have a focus on experience gain and stuff like that. Purifying Flame is a nice healing spell, and Draconian Transformation would be a real nice thing to get your heroes faster, or get your armies back up faster. So if you happen to have a hero that has Chaos or a Nature affinity bonus, you can do that. Also keep in mind your Dragon Rulers give you affinity boosts, so depending on their color. And if you don't rock a Dragon Ruler, you can totally play this with a Sorcerer King as well. Here, I want to emphasize that the signature skills of your ruler also add in affinity points, so you can bump up yourself towards that tome that you want to apply there. So, my final verdict, my final summary, this Golem build feels nuts. You might have a couple of losses along the way. Golems tend to die quite spontaneously. That can happen. So that's the only downside I found. But if you just keep printing a couple of these guys on the backhand and keep them moving back to your front, you don't have any problem. The big power of this build lies in the fact that you have power on all fronts. Your front line dishes out tremendous amounts of damage, as does your backline. And your front line is really good at protecting your backline. You have a strong synergy all over the board, and your capabilities of casting spells in combat are nuts. You have so much access to battle magic, and that's one point where I feel like this build really, really excels. Due to the fact that you have a lot of combat casting points, you can also use the cascading command spells quite well. If you manage to get yourself deeper involved into dark magic or shadow affinity, death magic is also something you might want to pick up. And yeah, at the end of the day, I really love this build, and it feels darn good to play mages with their Golem army thematically. It's a dream. Now, thanks for watching. Leave me your comments down below. Consider subscribing, and I'd be really, really happy if you'd give those links in the description box a look. Patreon, PayPal, and Buy Me a Coffee are there. I'd be happy if you check them out, and a big, big thanks to everybody who supports the channel. I couldn't do this without you guys, and I appreciate your work. And a big thanks, of course, to everybody watching this video right now. I couldn't do this without you guys either, so I hope you had a good time. See you all next video. Bye-bye.